the all-seeing eye, an ancient Egyptian symbol that, today, has found itself on everything from the US dollar bill to countless Hollywood movies. Although the use of this symbol has skyrocketed in modern times, its origin and meaning remain shrouded in obscurity for the vast majority of people who are exposed to it daily. How did this enigmatic symbol come to such widespread use, while its meaning remained a widespread riddle? Where did this symbol come from? What is its meaning? And why is its use rising? The first use of the all-seeing eye appears in ancient Egypt more than 4,000 years ago. During those times, the all-seeing eye was associated with three separate gods of Egyptian mythology. The first of these deities is Ra, who was both a sun god and a creator god. Most of the stories of Egyptian mythology either relate to him or those in his bloodline. Ra, according to Egyptian myth, is the creator of mankind and also ruled over the gods. He is typically described and depicted as the aging king. One of the stories, relevant to the study of the all-seeing eye, relates to a time in human history where mankind was growing rebellious to the rule of the gods, and even began to plot against the aging king Ra. Upon hearing the news that his favored creation was scheming against him, he grew wrathful and unleashes a superweapon of sorts upon mankind. Her name was Sekhmet. Sekhmet, sometimes called Hathor, is the second solar deity connected with the all-seeing eye. She was a powerful goddess, which became the sun god's mighty weapon. Sekhmet came upon humanity in a whirlwind of devastation and carnage. The streets ran red with blood, and none, not even the sun god, could stop her. Regretting his decision and fearing the complete annihilation of mankind, Ra decided that the blood-drenched goddess must be stopped. So he schemed to end her rampage by getting her drunk with beer made to look like blood. Wadjet is yet another name of this goddess, but it is also the original name for the all-seeing eye. The eye is associated with a third Egyptian god named Horus. The stories told about Horus mainly relate to his quest for revenge against his evil uncle, another god named Set. Set, who is the Egyptian god of storms and darkness, killed Horus's father Osiris and illegitimately took Osiris's throne. Horus, the son of Osiris and rightful heir to the throne, found himself in danger and exiled. In one of the many battles between Horus and his uncle Set, Horus had his left eye gouged out. In some Egyptian accounts, it was the right eye of Horus that was gouged out. The all-seeing eye, often called the Eye of Horus, was not only a symbol for the deity himself, but a symbol of protection and well-being. Horus, similar to Sekhmet, is a deity associated with combat and war. After the fall of the great Egyptian civilization, the all-seeing eye fell out of visibility. Thousands of years go by before this archaic symbol once more re-emerges as the logo for a secret society founded in southern Germany called the Illuminati. The Illuminati, founded in May of 1776 by a law professor named Adam Weishaupt, functioned both as a network of spies and a mystic occult order. It was the expressed purpose of the Illuminati to confound and uproot religion and many of Europe's monarchies. The activities of this secret society, however, involved more than espionage and political intrigue. Its inner doctrines, and the order as a whole, had a mystic and spiritual side. The philosophy of the Illuminati included theurgic magic and was heavily rooted in the Hebrew Kabbalah. Theurgic magic, more commonly known as alchemy, is magic directed towards the self, where the magician uses ritual to increase his intellectual and psychic powers, while moving up the alchemical grades of initiation. The Kabbalah is a set of ancient Jewish texts that describe the nature of reality, the rulers of the many dimensions, and a general roadmap of those dimensions called the Tree of Life. Below this Tree of Life, in mirrored formation, lies another tree, sometimes called the Qliphoth, also known as the Tree of Knowledge of Good and Evil. The public face of the Illuminati preached goodwill and brotherhood for all men, and submitted to the world that religion and national borders were roadblocks to world peace and the brotherhood of humanity. Some who rejected invitations to join the Illuminati saw the organization in a much more sinister light. John Robison, who was a member of a Freemasonic lodge in Scotland, was one of those critics. Mr. Robison, who himself was a professor in philosophy, claimed that he was approached and offered membership into the Illuminati secret society. What he soon discovered about the Illuminati troubled him dearly, propelling him to author an exposé on the group. His book, Proofs of a Conspiracy, published in 1778, details his experience within the outer circles of the Illuminati secret society. John Robison claimed that some members of the Illuminati had openly boasted that the true ambition and destiny of their organization was to quote-unquote rule the world. He goes on to state that the inner teachings had more to do with the magic and the occult than with politics. He further details how the Illuminati had begun to infiltrate and recruit from Masonic lodges throughout Europe. In his book, John notes how the members of Freemasonry are rarely Masons by profession, and that many individuals who desired to join Freemasonry were after knowledge of a more occult nature. In the introduction of his book, Proofs of a Conspiracy, Professor Robison says,
I have observed these doctrines gradually diffusing and mixing with all the different systems of Freemasonry, till, at last, an association had been formed for the express purpose of rooting out all the religious establishments and overturning all the existing governments of Europe. I have seen this association exerting itself zealously and systematically, till it has become almost irresistible.
Later in his book's introduction, he remarks,
And when we see that the methods which were practiced by this association for the express purpose of breaking all of the bands of society were employed solely in order that the leaders might rule the world with uncontrollable power, while all the rest, even the associated, will be degraded in their own estimation, corrupted in their principles, and employed as mere tools of the ambition of their unknown superiors.
Mr. Robison even sent his book to the first and former President of the United States, George Washington. In Washington's reply to Robison regarding the claims of his book, the former president says,
It was not my intention to doubt that the doctrines of the Illuminati and the principles of Jacobinism had not spread in the United States. On the contrary, no one is more truly satisfied of this fact than I am. The idea that I meant to convey was that I did not believe that the lodges of Freemasonry in this country had, as societies, endeavored to propagate the diabolical tenets of the first, or the pernicious principles of the latter, if they are susceptible of separation.
Of course, Washington could little argue with Robison's assertions, since, in 1782, the very same symbol Adam Weishaupt chose to represent the Illuminati became part of America's great national seal. Further, in 1789, the all-seeing eye also appeared in France's Declaration of Human Rights, which is similar to America's Bill of Rights. In 1934, President Franklin D. Roosevelt was approached by America's Secretary of Agriculture to have the nation's Great Seal placed on one of America's monetary coins. Roosevelt embraced the idea, but decided that the seal should instead be placed on the back of the $1 bill, and there it remains to this day. Those who are engaged in Satanism also make heavy use of the all-seeing eye. Instead of associating the eye with the Egyptian gods Horus, Ra, and Sekhmet, these black magicians refer to the all-seeing eye as the Eye of Set. Set, as stated previously, is the Egyptian god of storms and darkness. Despite the fact that Egyptian mythology never associates the all-seeing eye with the Egyptian god Set, modern black magicians do. The Egyptian god Set is, in the eyes of Satanists, the very same entity as Satan from the Bible. They claim that Set is simply another name for the dark lord of the underworld that Christians speak of, to such the extent that one of the most famous satanic churches is called the Temple of Set. The Roman god Saturn is yet another mythological deity that they closely relate to the being that Christians call Satan. So, predictably, the all-seeing eye is featured in countless books relating to Satanism and black magic. The symbolic interpretation of the pyramid which often surrounds the eye is also a repeating theme among occultists. The first of these interpretations is that of the Trinity, which is the Father, the Mother, and the Son. The second interpretation is that of the Infernal Trinity, who is the dragon, the whore, and the beast. The third symbolic interpretation of the pyramid is that of a phallic symbol. A phallic symbol is something that symbolizes the male generative principle. You see, in the occult, an upward-pointing triangle is a symbol of the magical element fire, and fire represents the male principle. Aleister Crowley, easily the most famous black magician, made numerous references to the all-seeing eye as the Eye of Set, or the Eye of Satan, and repeatedly associated both the sun and the eye with Satan. In his book, Magic in Theory and Practice, he states,
Satan, thou eye, thou lust, cry aloud, whirl the wheel, O my father, O Satan, O son. Sabaoth, being by number 70, is a name of Aen, the eye, and the devil our Lord, and the goat of Mendes. He is the Lord of the Sabbath of the Adepts, and is Satan, therefore also the Son, whose number of magic is 666, the seal of his servant, the beast.
Michael W. Ford, easily one of the most prolific black magic writers today, is even more open and blatant about the true meaning of the sun and the all-seeing eye. In his books, he remarks,
The sun is also associated with the adversarial triad, being Shaitan, Typhon, Apophis, and Bets, a god of transformation. The devil, as an initiatory force, is considered masculine, thus is represented by the phallus, or source of creative life. In the tarot, the devil is attributed to Capricornus, and the Hebrew letter Ayin, being an eye. The demiurge Saturnus is related to the number 666, being that of Saroth, or the sun. Satanus is this aspect in one form of the adversary, being rebellion, death, and chaos from stasis. The very force of the sun is in the eye of Saturnus. In the name and mark of the devil, whom I swear my spirit unto, I am myself the Redeemer and bringer of the infernal pact, which holds no bounds, nor mortal strain, yet my desires shall be filled by the eye within the blackened triangle. Symbolically, the averse pentagram represents the essence of the Egyptian god of darkness and storms, Set. Set on, is the opposing force of darkness, but intelligence and isolate consciousness. To be Set-like is to be individual, will-driven, and balanced. The center of the averse pentagram is called the Eye of Set, or the Eye of Satan, the adversary.
Until quite recently, the $1 bill and various resources associated with Freemasonry and black magic were the only venues the all-seeing eye had. And then, something happened. Use of this once guarded symbol skyrocketed, despite the fact that its meaning remains veiled to the masses. It appears as the logo of the American Total Information Awareness Office, Great Britain's famous MI5, cathedrals, and of course, Freemasonry. The all-seeing eye has also undergone a pop culture explosion and, as of 40 years ago, has appeared in more than 30 major films and television shows. What we see is simply a series of movies and TV shows that all, in some way or another, contain this enigmatic symbol. But how is this symbol used? And is its use in movies and television programs consistent with Egyptian mythology or modern-day Satanists? Perhaps by examining the context in which the all-seeing eye is used, we may glean some wisdom regarding the meaning of this ancient symbol. The most common use of the all-seeing eye in movies associates the symbol with the villain, and the most glaring example is the cartoon TV series Minoritime. Minoritime is a Cartoon Network television show about a group of minority superheroes comprised of a black guy, a Jew, a Mexican, an Indian, and a wheelchair-bound Chinese guy. The villain of the show, a man called White Shadow, has a pyramid for a head. The White Shadow, together with his racist gang, make a career out of attacking and defaming minorities. The heroes of the show, the Minoritime, usually thwart the evil plans of the White Shadow. The show is loaded with racist jokes and innuendos. The pyramid and all-seeing eye are blatantly expressed on the face of the central villain.
How many times are we going to use snakes to try to kill non-stop? Anyone? I have to say, in my professional opinion, money-wise, bang for the buck-wise, snakes have to absolutely be the worst way to kill people.
Great.
Gargoyles is a Disney cartoon series about a group of crime-fighting gargoyles that fight crime by night and become stone statues by day. In one episode, an FBI agent becomes obsessed with exposing a powerful secret society called the Illuminati. In the television show, it is alleged that the Illuminati always have a membership of 666 people, and even the United States president is in the pocket of this secretive group. Even though most of the people in his circle consider his investigation to be a wild goose chase, he persists with his investigative pursuit until he finally confirms the group's existence. In Gargoyles, the all-seeing eye and pyramid are directly associated with the villainous Illuminati.
Mace Malone vanished, over 70 years ago, and is probably dead. Even if you did figure out what happened to him, how would that prove this all-powerful Illuminati society of yours really exists?
Thanks to you, the Illuminati had the goods to cut themselves in. They've been organized crime's silent partner ever since.
Young man, how long have you been plagued by these fanciful delusions?
Not as long as you've had this tattoo.
The Handmaid's Tale takes place in an alternate reality in a country called Gilead. In the movie, the country has become a theocratic police state that has been ravaged by poisons that has left the female population mostly infertile. The small sliver of women who are still fertile, called handmaids, have been gathered to a camp where they are assigned the task of bearing children. The government of the country, who is under attack by a growing rebellion, has for its emblem an all-seeing eye and pyramid. In the 2009 movie Angels and Demons, a writer and researcher named Robert Langdon is asked by the Roman Catholic Church to investigate a series of disappearances perpetrated by an organization who called itself the Illuminati. In the story, the Illuminati intend on destroying the Vatican by detonating an antimatter bomb. The conspirators leave a trail of clues that eventually allow Robert, played by Tom Hanks, to discover the location of the bomb before it is exploded. While exploring one of the many breadcrumbs left for Tom Hanks, he enters an underground passage where the pentagram is adorned with an all-seeing eye at its center. Film From Hell, Johnny Depp plays Frederick Aberline, an opium-smoking inspector asked to investigate a series of gruesome murders that has the citizens of London in an uproar. As the movie progresses, it becomes clear that Frederick Aberline's investigation is being impeded by local Freemasons who occupy much of London's positions of power. One of Frederick's opium-induced visions reveals that the Jack the Ripper murders are somehow tied to the Freemasons, and it is here where the viewer is exposed to the all-seeing eye. In the Simpsons episode, Homer the Great from Season 6, Homer becomes intrigued and obsessed with a secret society called the Stonecutters. After failing to gain membership on his own, he discovers that his father is a member of the Stonecutters, and this finally affords him an opportunity for entry into the group. Homer discovers that members of the Stonecutters have privileges above the average Springfield citizen. In this episode, the Stonecutters, who are obviously modeled after the Freemasons, sing a song declaring the many conspiracies they're engaged in. During one of the secret society's many ceremonies, Homer is discovered bearing a mark suggesting that he is in fact the long-awaited chosen one. The members of the Stonecutters proclaim that Homer is in fact a god in human form. Homer begins to guide the efforts of the Stonecutters away from sophomoric mischief and towards philanthropic pursuits. Homer's newly acquired subjects become quickly discontented with the acts of charity Homer proposes, and embarks on creating a new secret society founded upon the principles of disallowing Homer's membership. The episode depicts the all-seeing eye as a major symbol for the Stonecutter secret society. In this full-length Tom and Jerry cartoon, Tom and Jerry enter a race in order to win a mansion. The villain of the movie, a ratings whore Hollywood producer named Glob Wobbler, continues to extend the finish line of the race because the event is bringing in huge television ratings. At the beginning of the movie, Glob Wobbler is summoned by the quote-unquote president of Hollywood and respond by putting on hats of pyramids with a single eye on top as they fall to their knees. The president of Hollywood, who is later seen holding a staff with the all-seeing eye on it, insists that Hollywood must appeal to the lowest of man's base instincts. At the end of the movie, Glob Wobbler has a change of heart and is determined to put good, wholesome fun back into Hollywood programming. The president of Hollywood, Biff Buzzard, instantly appears and vaporizes Mr. Glob Wobbler.
Hollywood is going to stand for morality, wholesomeness, good, clean family entertainment.
What's gotten into him? We can't have that kind of attitude in Hollywood.
Any Given Sunday is about a professional football team called the Miami Sharks that is slowly falling apart. Injuries, along with discipline and management problems, are shaking the core of the franchise. After an inspirational saga, wrought with inner turmoil and subplots, the team finally starts to get their act together. The last opponent the Miami Sharks face in the movie is the Dallas Knights. The Dallas football team have for their logo an all-seeing eye and a sun. The movie contains a rather perplexing scene where one of the Dallas players loses an eye in the form and fashion of a button ejected from a t-shirt following a large meal. And during this scene, the pyramid and all-seeing eye are flashed on the screen a number of times. Suspiria is a 1977 film about a ballet school that is more than it seems. The story surrounds an American girl named Susie who joins a famous European ballet school. Through a series of bizarre events that begin the moment she arrived at the school, Susie begins to delve deeper into the school's past and present members and comes to learn that the ballet school was originally founded as a witches' coven. She would later come upon a hidden chamber within the school where the school teachers are performing a ritual. Similar to the plot of many vampire movies, the main character kills the head witch, instantly subjecting the lesser witches to the same fate. The all-seeing eye in this movie is seen within that hidden ritual chamber. El Topo is an absurd 70s movie that was meant to be surrealist and artsy, but succeeds only in being stupid. El Topo is about a traveling gunman and his many pointless adventures in a Salvador Dali-inspired Wild West setting. At the end of this pointless and pathetic tale, El Topo, which means the mole, becomes the champion of a group of freaks and cripples and goes on to battle an evil cult which rules a nearby town. The symbol for this cult is the all-seeing eye within a pyramid. Batman Returns, the second movie in the modern Batman series, is about Batman versus the Penguin. In the film, the Penguin has revealed himself to the people of Gotham City after spending a lifetime living in the sewers. Gotham becomes enchanted by the Penguin, and soon the Penguin and another villain named Max Shreck begin planning the Penguin's mayoral rise to power. By the end, the Penguin betrays Shreck, and Batman defeats the Penguin and his army. In a scene where Batman is attending a masquerade ball of Gotham's elite, the all-seeing eye and pyramid are seen on a turban worn by Max Shreck. In desperately seeking Susan, a pent-up housewife named Roberta becomes obsessed with an adventurous floozy named Susan, played by Madonna. After a bit of stalking and a bump on a head that causes her amnesia, she unwittingly assumes Susan's identity. Roberta is immediately mistaken for the real Susan, not because Roberta acts similar or bears resemblance to Susan, but because in the course of taking Susan's identity, Roberta also began wearing Susan's jacket. This rather unique jacket has, on its back, an all-seeing eye and pyramid identical to the one that graces the US $1 bill. Roberta discovers that the woman whose identity she has taken has a criminal reputation, and because it never occurs to Roberta to take the damn jacket off, she continues to find herself mistrusted, expelled, and hunted by the people she encounters. Watchmen is about a disbanded group of superheroes who are brought back together when they discover that they are being targeted by someone who knows their true identity. Rorschach, a superhero who continued to fight crime after the Watchmen organization was disbanded, stays firmly on the trail of these recent assassinations. Near the end of the movie, a terrible revelation is made as the remaining Watchmen find out that one of their own, a former Watchmen superhero named Ozymandias, has betrayed his friends and is behind the murders, and also intends to conduct a major terrorist attack where millions will die. This villain, Ozymandias, is obsessed with Egyptian motifs, including pyramids, and wears an all-seeing eye on his belt. A Scanner Darkly is about a dystopic future where America is a police state, and many people are addicted to an epidemic street drug named Substance D. Although it is claimed that Substance D is being manufactured in foreign countries and shipped to America, the viewer and the movie's main character, Robert Arctor, eventually learn that the plants used to make Substance D are being grown by the very organization who claims to be fighting Substance D addiction. At the beginning of the film, the all-seeing eye in Pyramid is seen on the t-shirt of a character played by Robert Downey Jr. This character betrays his friends and is a heavy user of Substance D himself. The movie Hackers is about a group of hackers who are framed for a cybercrime they didn't commit. The villain of the movie, who absolutely insists on being called the Plague, has created a computer virus that will cause chaos and is designed to embezzle millions of dollars. In the movie, the all-seeing eye in Pyramid is seen for just a moment when the hero of the movie is sent a recorded message from the villain.
Well, let me explain the New World Order. Governments and corporations need people like you and me. We are samurai, the keyboard cowboys, and all those other people out there who have no idea what's going on are the cattle.
Conan the Barbarian is about a warrior named Conan, whose family was killed by the movie's villain, Thulsa Doom. The villain, played by James Earl Jones, is repeatedly associated with the Egyptian god Set. In the film, it is said that Thulsa Doom is 1,000 years old and the leader of many snake cults. Similar to the story of Horus spoke of earlier, Conan, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, goes on a quest to avenge his father's murder. Not only is Thulsa Doom associated with Set, but with the all-seeing eye as well.
The only snakes I know of are those of Set and those cursed towers. They have spread to every city. 2-3 years ago, it was just another snake cult. Now, everywhere.
In your hand, you hold my light, the gleam in the eye of Set.
An episode of South Park also contains the all-seeing eye in Pyramid. In this episode, Kyle is extremely ill and his patients consult a local mystic for a natural and homeopathic cure for Kyle's ailments. This mystic, whose name is Misinformation, is a fraud and claims that Kyle is improving, while in reality, his condition continues to worsen. In the film Sleepy Hollow, a skeptical investigator is sent to a small town to investigate a series of murders which the locals claim were committed by a headless horseman, despite the notable handicap of being dead. Investigator Ichabod Crane, played by Johnny Depp, was originally quite skeptical of the existence or possibility of a headless horseman who rides the night slaying local townfolk. Only after a direct encounter with the headless horseman does he finally shed his disbelief. The villain of the movie, a witch that would later reveal herself, disapproves with Constable Crane's snooping and begins setting traps for the investigator. One of those traps was the evil eye drawn beneath Ichabod's bed, which he discovers by chance. The Cartoon Network series Samurai Jack is about a hero named Samurai Jack who was sent forward in time against his will to find himself in a future created by his arch enemy. In one of his many adventures, Samurai Jack attempts to break into the villain's many fortresses in order to steal an object with incredible power, powerful enough to send Samurai Jack back to the past so he can prevent the accursed future his nemesis has created. This pyramidal fortress is covered from head to toe with all-seeing eyes. Obviously, the all-seeing eye being repeatedly associated with the villain is consistent with modern-day Satanists, who have equated the eye with Satan. Even though this is the most common use of the symbol, some movies depict the all-seeing eye in the context of Egyptian mythology, where the eye was a superweapon or the mark of divinity bore by the chosen one. Yu-Gi-Oh! The Pyramid of Light is a kids' movie with a rather ridiculous premise, where people duel each other with monsters evoked from playing cards. In the cartoon, powerful and evil spirits have been locked away in a series of pieces called the Millennium Items. When all the pieces are brought together, the puzzle forms a pyramid with the all-seeing eye. The story centers around Yu-Gi-Oh!, who is a champion card player because of his 3 Egyptian god cards, which the villain, named Seto Kaiba, attempts to steal from Yu-Gi-Oh! During the duel between Yu-Gi-Oh! And Seto, the Egyptian god of the dead, Anubis, is released from his prison within the pyramid. He then becomes the bearer of the mighty weapon himself. After a drawn-out battle, Anubis is predictably defeated by the story's hero, Yu-Gi-Oh! The all-seeing eye and pyramid are seen so many times in the film, they hardly have a single context aside from being the emblems of a superweapon. Tomb Raider is about a woman named Lara Croft, played by Angelina Jolie, who learns that her late father has left her the key to half of a superweapon called the Triangle of Light. The Triangle of Light is a weapon that was split into 2 pieces long ago and offers its bearer the awesome ability to control time. The main villain, Manfred Powell, is working hard for a group called the Illuminati so that the 2 halves of the triangle may be brought back together during a momentous celestial alignment. Right before the Illuminati succeed in gaining the power of God by bringing together the 2 halves, they are betrayed by Manfred Powell, who himself attempts to bring the 2 pieces of the triangle together. Lara Croft foils his plan and destroys the Triangle of Light so that it could never again endanger the world. In Tomb Raider, the all-seeing eye is both the insignia of the Illuminati and the superweapon they pursue.
The secret society known as the Illuminati, devious, dangerous men who seek to fulfill an ancient prophecy by reuniting the 2 halves.
In The Mummy Returns, a Tomb Raider of sorts named Rick, played by Brendan Fraser, discovers that a cult intends on resurrecting an ancient army using a bracelet belonging to the Egyptian god Anubis. The cult intends on unleashing and commandeering the army of Anubis. During the movie, a tattoo with the all-seeing eye and pyramid is seen on Rick's arm, and he is later told that this is a symbol of a chosen one, a warrior for God. The prophecy regarding the divine mark reveals itself to be true as Rick strikes the final blow that sends the army of Anubis back to the underworld. The Man Who Would Be King is about 2 Englishmen who, after being declared criminals by the British Empire, conjure a plan to travel to a far-off and primitive land in the hope that they could arrive and rule the primitive population. The all-seeing eye is first seen on a charm together with the Masonic compass. This Masonic charm, which they first tried to steal, was eventually given to them. When they arrive to the primitive land of Kafiristan, the charm is spotted by the locals and acknowledged as a divine emblem that catapults one of the movie's main characters, Danny, into instant rulership. Disaster begins to befall Danny's kingdom, and soon the native holy men turn against Danny and his rulership.
They're Masons. By the square, by the level, by the plumb rule, by the compasses, and by the all-seeing eye. The craft, Danny, the craft.
Similar to The Man Who Would Be King, Stargate is about a guy named Danny who was given a charm adorned with the all-seeing eye. Danny, along with a chaperone of soldiers, arrived to a primitive land where, just like The Man Who Would Be King, the locals noticed the charm Danny was given and mistake it for divinity. Ra, the villain of Stargate, receives word of Danny's arrival and attempts to kill the soldiers that arrived with him. Danny would lead the natives along with the remaining soldiers to victory against Ra. The 2009 movie, Men Who Stare at Goats, is about a disbanded group of psychic warriors who once worked for the army but whose unit was later decommissioned. These psychic soldiers call themselves the Jedi and hold the all-seeing eye and pyramid as their insignia. The villain of the movie, who was once a former member of the Jedi, has revived the disbanded army battalion and plans to use it for more nefarious purposes. Predictably, the good remaining Jedi foil the plot of their old colleague and expose his activities to the world. The movie was obviously borrowing from George Lucas's Jedi, but even George Lucas was borrowing the concept of the Jedi. Jedi comes from the word Dijedi. Dijed meaning spinal column, and Dijedi was the name of mystic priests in ancient Egypt who practiced alchemical magic to give themselves new powers. Then there's Master of Disguise, a movie so bad only a masochist could enjoy it. The film, which is obnoxious beyond all reckoning, centers around a character named Pistachio, who comes from a family line of superheroes who are able to disguise themselves as the person of their choice. In the movie, Pistachio's father is kidnapped and forced to use his powers to do the bidding of the movie's villain, a character with the not-so-subtle name of Devlin. Being generous, I'll spare you the details of Pistachio's mentally handicapped quest to locate and free his enslaved father, and simply remark that the all-seeing eye is used as a symbol of Pistachio's bloodline. Pick of Destiny is about an aspiring rock musician named JB, who learns that all the best rock musicians of the past used the same guitar pick, which had been fashioned from the tooth of the devil by a powerful magician ages ago. He eventually obtains the Pick of Destiny in the Rock and Roll Museum, and by the end does battle with the devil in a rock-out contest. The all-seeing eye is seen on Jack Black's t-shirt and on the headband of Jack's mentor, another band member named KG. Mystery Men is about a group of disorganized wannabe superheroes who realize that it is up to them to save Champion City from a crime wave perpetrated by the movie's disco-obsessed villain, Casanova Frankenstein. After recruiting more members to the superhero franchise, they still find themselves without leadership. The Mystery Men find leadership in a Yoda-like character named the Sphinx. The Sphinx trains and mentors the group until they are ready for the final showdown with the forces of Casanova Frankenstein. The all-seeing eye is spotted on the garment of the group's mentor in the moments leading up to the final battle with Casanova. In the movie Van Helsing, the famous vampire hunter Van Helsing is out to save a town in Eastern Europe from the clutches of Dracula, who is acknowledged as the son of the devil. Upon arrival to the small village, he begins to battle Dracula's followers. Van Helsing is eventually bitten by a werewolf and escapes the human condition by becoming a werewolf himself. Using his newly acquired abilities as a werewolf, he locates and defeats Dracula. The all-seeing eye is seen only once in the movie, at the beginning, where it graces the bandana Van Helsing wears to conceal his identity. The movie The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus is about a traveling band of street performers who are more than what they seem. The traveling stage they perform on actually contains another dimension. Those who enter into this alternate dimension can become and experience anything they imagine. In the movie, an old man named Dr. Parnassus has gambled away the soul of his daughter to the movie's villain, a character called Mr. Nick, who collects people's souls. Dr. Parnassus attempts to free his daughter's soul from the wager by providing the villain with other people's souls. The all-seeing eye and pyramid are spotted on the Doctor's traveling stage. It's also worth noting that the villain's name, Mr. Nick, is very close to Old Nick, which has long been used as an alternative name for the devil. This villain is also explicitly called the devil in the movie. National Treasure is about a large, ever-growing treasure that has been handed down to one owner after another for ages. Eventually, the large cachet of jewels and precious metals ends up in the hands of a group of knights called the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar, portrayed as noble heroes, feared that the treasure would fall into the hands of the British Empire, so they hid the treasure and left a series of clues regarding its whereabouts so that future generations could locate it. The movie's villain, an Englishman named Ian Howe, intends on cashing in on the treasure by following the clues left by the Freemasons. The protagonist, Ben Gates, played by Nicolas Cage, is also on the trail of the great national treasure. In the movie, the All-Seeing Eye and Pyramid were symbols of the Knights Templar, who would later rename themselves the Freemasons. Sometimes the Pyramid and All-Seeing Eye are seen in a movie or TV show without a specific use or context, as if it had no other apparent purpose other than to be seen. The first of these instances is a series of movies called Halloween Town. In 3 out of the 4 Halloween Town movies, the All-Seeing Eye can be seen on the door of a taxi that acts as the town's cab service. Being There is a 1979 film about a simpleton gardener named Chauncey Gardner. The main character's mannerisms remind the viewer of Dustin Hoffman's Rain Man. But unlike Rain Man and his superb mathematical abilities, Chauncey has no redeeming qualities or special talents aside from being mistaken by other people as profound and insightful. As the movie progresses, the viewer can hardly tell who's dumber, Chauncey or the countless people who have mistaken his simpleton expressions as deep and profound. At the end of the movie, a group of men are burying one of the president's top advisors who took Chauncey under his wing. Mysteriously, the men conclude that Chauncey is the only candidate that could take the place of the old man who has recently passed away. The All-Seeing Eye is seen on the final resting place of the president's late advisor. Just before the ending credits, a perplexing scene takes place as Chauncey is witnessed walking on water. The 1973 movie Holy Mountain, similar to El Topo, was going for surrealistic and artsy, but only manages to be absurd and blasphemous to boot, where almost every scene is a mockery of Jesus Christ. At the beginning of this senseless tale, Jesus undergoes what appears to be some kind of initiation as he approaches the 2 pillars of the Tree of Life. This is later confirmed when he was told the words, to know, to dare, to want, and to keep silent. Each of these statements represents one of the magical elements, and all 4 are often said during occult initiation rituals. This ridiculous story surrounds the life of Jesus and 8 others as they journey to a place called the Holy Mountain, where it is alleged that one is bestowed with immortality. The All-Seeing Eye appears in the film as a room where the members of Jesus' group throw their money and egos into the fire and vow to gain immortality by reaching the Holy Mountain. Why is the meaning of the eye confined to so few contexts in so many movies and television shows? And why is the All-Seeing Eye's uses correspond to satanic and mythological interpretations? The surprising answer is that the aforementioned movies and TV shows are in fact retelling a very real story based on the gods of Egypt, where each time the story is altered slightly so that it does not resemble any previous retelling of Egyptian myth. The sun and All-Seeing Eye, once symbols of protection and divinity, have now become emblems of evil. Clearly, there are repetitive themes regarding the use and context of the All-Seeing Eye in popular media. It is also clear that these repetitive themes are mostly in line with satanic and mythological uses of this ancient symbol. Further, the years of 2000 to 2009 saw more use of the All-Seeing Eye than every instance in the previous 3 decades combined. Most of the time, the All-Seeing Eye is a villain, like the Egyptian god Set. Other times, it is the mark of a chosen one, like the Egyptian god Horus. And still in other cases, a superweapon, like the Egyptian goddess Sekhmet. If one chooses to mix the perspective of Egyptian mythology with modern-day Satanists, they would come to the conclusion that the All-Seeing Eye is a superweapon or a position of power in which Satan is the present beholder of.